Good morning. We are here in the Blue Mountains today on the Anderson Fire Trail. So we woke up at about super early. We were aiming to get to Glenbrook train station at 6:15, so I woke up at 4:30 and it was about an hour drive there. We caught the train from Glenbrook for about 45 minutes all the way to Wentworth Falls in the Blue Mountains. And here we are now in the secluded bush here. So it's beautiful. We're on a fire trail. And the plan is we're going to ride all the way back from Wentworth Falls to Glenbrook train station. So it's about 60k, it's all off-road, but here's the best part. Pretty much all downhill. So 3,000 meters elevation down, 1,000 meters elevation up, and we're chilling.
Alright, let's start this story from the very start because this day ended up being a pretty big adventure. The Anderson and Fire Oaks Trail has been a ride that Michael has been pitching to me for probably a year now, and it's just a bit of a hassle to get to. You know, it's like an hour drive there, then a 45-minute train, so I've always put it off. But he made an extra special case for it. He said, you know, he's planned out the whole thing, so I said, why not? Let's go and do it. I woke up super early, Greg drove us there, me and Chris, and we got to Glenbrook train station right on time. Now, how we planned it was we were meant to get to the train station a few minutes before it arrived, and we ended up cutting it pretty close. We got there with 2 minutes to spare. First thing that we found out was these Blue Mountains trains, you got to open the doors physically with your hands, and then the compartment that you go into is tiny. In fact, we almost couldn't fit all our bikes in here. We should have split up into 2 different groups. They were jam-packed into this tiny compartment. There was 5 of us with our 5 bikes, and we could not even move our bikes into another area. That's how packed in we were, like sardines. Now, after resting with our bikes for a bit, we managed to move a couple of them into that compartment and also some of them into the seating area, and we got to relax for the next 40 minutes of the train ride. This is actually really beautiful. The sun was rising up over the mountains, and the Blue Mountains is quite picturesque, very nice and quiet, especially at this time of the day. But it wasn't too long before we arrived at Wentworth Falls. Once we got to Wentworth Falls, we loaded up the route on our Garmins and we rode to the start. We had about 5 kilometers of road riding. The first bit wasn't too nice, it was in the shoulder of the highway, but once we got off the main roads, it was beautiful. Now, the first part of the fire trail, we went through this camping ground here and we hit this 4-wheel drive track, and this track was horrendous. Oh my gosh, it was like it was trying to rattle all our bones and our teeth out of our head. It's caused by the rumbling of car suspensions. It makes these rumble strips, and it was just terrible. We were getting knocked around all over the place, and at this point I knew there was about 60k of riding left, and I was pretty worried that the whole thing would be like this. That being said, we didn't let the harsh surface detract from the beauty of the ride. The whole time we were looking around at nature, it was just awesome, and the other great thing was it was really, really quiet. This whole time that we're riding here, we only came across 2 cars, both of which gave us a respectful distance to pass. Greg not only drove us there, but he also brought along his drone, and he took these epic shots here to give you a real sense of scale of the place. You can see we are just miles away from anything, and it's really, really nice. After 15 kilometers, we came across this gate in the track. Now, after the gate, I'm assuming it was cut off for vehicles because the track just became immaculate.
Even though there was lots of little rocks on the ground, it was just so much smoother, and I feel like the suspension on my front fork really absorbed a lot of the bumps, and we also reduced the pressure in our tyres a little bit. So I think initially we were probably running around 30 psi, and we would have brought that down to about the low 20s. If you're riding gravel and you're finding it quite uncomfortable, this is probably my number one tip on just quick things you can adjust on the fly to make your ride quality much better. The problem with a route that has 3,000 meters of descending is that some of the descents are a little bit sketchy. We're talking loose rocks, big ruts in the road due to erosion from the rain. And unfortunately Chris had a pretty bad stack. Now, when he had that stack, he didn't look too good, and we knew we had to get help for him. So the whole priority of the day shifted from finishing the route to actually just getting him to safety. Now, we were about 4 kilometers in the bush, and it was quite a lot of terrain to get through, a few water crossings as well as a lot of climbing. The result of this was we ended up just pushing the bikes out of this track, and once we got to the road we reassessed how Chris was, and he was in a bit of pain but he was in a stable condition, so we decided to take him back to our local hospital. I know this looks like a lot of our recent gravel rides have been a bit of a disaster, but I do want to highlight that we have a lot of fun, and something else that I do want to highlight is that it always pays off just to have a little bit of first aid equipment on hand. Here's some suggestions I have to you if you're going to do some gravel riding. Number one, know your route back to front, know where your exit points are, if you can exit early and get back to civilization. Number two, always ride with other people. You know, I'd hate to think what would happen to someone if they fell over and they were seriously injured by themselves out in the bush. We were in a very, very secluded part of the Blue Mountains, and it could be entirely possible that no one would even know you're there. And number three, just carry some first aid equipment on hand and just have a plan for if someone gets hurt. That can just be as simple as, you know, going to the nearest exit and then calling an ambulance, or maybe going to a car or calling down for some help. Just a little update on Chris. He got well taken care of at Royal Shore Hospital. They bandaged him up, stitched up some of his wounds and gave him a few scans, and he was discharged later that day. Look, he's actually going to be off the bike for a little bit of time, which I will be very upset about because I enjoy his company, but I hope that he rests up and he heals soon. Now, it's a shame that we have to leave this video on a little bit of a somber note, but thank you so much for watching. If you've come up to me recently and said hi, really appreciate it. It's super encouraging to have you guys tell me that you enjoy the videos and that you love watching them. I really appreciate it. Anyway guys, thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.